As is typical when a new line of graphics cards gets released, there's this immediate focus on high end, with Nvidia pushing cards like the 1080 and 1070 as having unparalleled performance, while AMD's RX 480 was supposed to be a VR for the masses type product. But what about the humble gamer without a bottomless trust fund bank account who just wants a solid 1080p experience? Let's have a look at Nvidia's latest offering for the blue-collar members of the PC Master Race, the GeForce GTX 1050 Ti. Massdrop is currently featuring the Infinity ErgoDock Split Keyboard Kit. Check it out in the video description. So the GTX 1050 Ti is based off the same Pascal microarchitecture as the rest of the GeForce 10 series, but it uses the new GP107 GPU. This is a bit of a change from the GeForce 9 series, where the GTX 950 just ran a cut-down version of the GTX 960's GPU. With the 1050 Ti, you get 768 CUDA cores with a 1392 MHz on the boost clock, as well as 4 GB of GDDR5 VRAM running on a 128-bit memory bus. Although these cards aren't compatible with SLI, you do get other GeForce 10 standard features like NVIDIA Ansel for cool screenshots, as well as support for DirectX 12 and Vulkan. For our benchmarks, we got two flavors of the card, the Zotac GTX 1050 Ti Mini and the MSI GTX 1050 Ti OC. Both feature a modest factory overclock, with the Zotac running at 1417 MHz on the boost clock and the MSI running just a bit higher at 1455. Both of these cards are small form factor and don't require any power beyond what the motherboard's PCIe slot can provide. In fact, in our Crysis 3 load test, our system drew less than 160 watts from the wall in entirety, while staying below about 60-ish degrees Celsius. Very interesting numbers if you're fighting size, power, or thermal limits in your current system. Or are they? To give a real answer, we of course need to look at performance in real games. So here's how our 1050 Ti stacked up on our Core i7-6850K test bench that we use for all of our testing to standardize our results and eliminate bottlenecks. All tests were performed at 1080p, as this is a less powerful card that isn't really aimed at users going for 1440p or 4K. Starting out with the aforementioned Crysis 3, which is still a punishing title after over 3.5 years, the 1050 Ti performed quite well for a card targeted squarely at the lower middle end of the market. It managed frame rates in the low 40s on very high presets, while bumping things down to high delivers a buttery smooth experience at 71 frames per second. Moving on to Rise of the Tomb Raider, the story was somewhat similar, with the 1050 Ti managing close to 60 FPS on high settings, while very high will set you back about 10 frames. DirectX 12 unfortunately didn't help matters, costing us a few FPS actually, which has been a recurring theme on the latest Nvidia set of hardware. The much anticipated Battlefield 1 played very nicely with both of our 1050 Ti's, scoring in the low 60s on ultra settings. Performance on the highest preset in Doom was similarly impressive, with frame rates in the upper 60s. But although these numbers are quite good for a budget-oriented 1080p focused card, does that necessarily mean the card is a good value? Well, that depends on how you define value. If you go for strict dollars per frame analysis, the GTX 1050 Ti doesn't exactly come out looking that good, as you can see on this graph. However, many buyers looking for a graphics card in this price range mostly care about just smooth 1080p performance at respectable settings without any donking around. And right now, the $140 GTX 1050 Ti is the cheapest card that hits all these marks, as it scored very close to or above 60 FPS at high settings in all of our games, and scored at least in the mid-40s or even higher at the max presets. Right now, its closest competitor on the red team, the $100 RX 460, can't really say the same, but then $40 is a pretty big price delta at this end of the market. However, given that the next step up performance-wise is the RX 470 at $50 more, it seems like the 1050 Ti has a nice little spot carved out for it, for the folks that just want to come as close to possible to maxing out titles in 1080p for the least amount of money. assuming that the actual prices line up with MSRP at all, as I discussed in detail in this video. So if you are in the market for a more budget-oriented card, it doesn't do for PC gaming what, you know, like Doritos Locos Tacos did for the simulated Mexican food market, but it'll do. Thanks for watching, guys. If this video sucked, you know what to do, but if it was awesome and you're like, whoa, more cheap graphics cards, yeah! Hit the like button, get subscribed, all that awesome stuff. Check out the links in the video description down below where you can buy stuff like these graphics cards or these cool shirts, or talk about things on the forum like how we're NVIDIA shills, or like how we're AMD shills, or like how we're Intel shills, or like how we're insert other brand here shills. Either of those would probably work. If you want to see another video, check out this one, which is on the RX 470. Let's do that, and I'll see you next time.